I always thought family meant having each other's backs. That was before I watched my parents give away my future from behind a crack in the door. My name is Bella, and I spent 18 years being the good daughter, while my sister Sasha charmed her way through life with her magnetic personality and effortless grace. I buried myself in textbooks and lab reports. Science was my escape, my passion, my future. Or so I thought. Sasha has the charisma this opportunity needs. My father's voice drifted through the gap. She'll represent our family better at the interview. I froze, my hand still raised to knock. The scholarship interview at Preston University, my dream school, was scheduled for tomorrow, the interview I'd spent months preparing for. But what about Bella? My mother's voice held a note of hesitation. She's been working so hard for this. Exactly. She works hard, but she lacks presence. Preston's legacy scholarship isn't just about grades. It's about connections, about carrying the family name forward. My heart thundered in my chest as I pushed the door open. That's my interview slot. They jumped, startled by my entrance. My father's face hardened while my mother wouldn't meet my eyes. "Bella, honey," she started, "we were just discussing. You're giving away my interview to Sasha?" My voice cracked. "The interview I've been preparing for since freshman year?" "Be reasonable," my father said, using his lawyer voice. "Sasha has a natural gift for these situations. She doesn't even want to study science." The words burst out of me. "She's never shown any interest in research or—" "That's not the point," he cut me off. "The point is securing the Bennett legacy at Preston. Sasha knows how to work a room. She'll charm the committee, make the connections we need." "What about what I need?" I could feel tears threatening, but I refused to let them fall. "What about everything I've worked for?" "Oh, darling." My mother finally looked at me, her expression pitying. "There are other schools, other opportunities better suited to your particular strengths." The door opened and Sasha walked in, her perfect smile faltering as she read the room. "What's going on?" "Nothing," my father said smoothly. "We were just telling Bella about some changes to tomorrow's schedule." Sasha's eyes widened slightly. She knew. Of course she knew. "I'm sorry, Bells," she said, not sounding sorry at all. "Dad thinks—" "Don't." I held up my hand. "Don't pretend this isn't exactly what you wanted." I turned and ran upstairs to my room, ignoring their calls. My hands shook as I pulled out my suitcase, the one I'd packed for college visits. Now it would serve a different purpose. "Bella," my mother appeared in the doorway. "What are you doing?" "What does it look like?" I stuffed clothes into the suitcase, not bothering to fold them. "I'm leaving." "Don't be dramatic. We're trying to do what's best for everyone." "Best for everyone!" I laughed bitterly. "Best for Sasha, you mean? Best for the precious family name?" "You're being childish," my father's voice boomed from behind her. "This is exactly why we made this decision. You're too emotional, too—" "Too what?" I whirled to face him. "Too honest, too unwilling to play your games." "Where will you even go?" my mother asked, wringing her hands. I zipped up the suitcase. "Anywhere but here." "B, if you walk out that door," my father warned, "don't expect our support. No tuition, no allowance, nothing." I shouldered my backpack and grabbed the suitcase. "Keep it. I'd rather have nothing than live with this betrayal." "Bella, please." My mother reached for me, but I stepped back. "I hope Sasha's interview goes well," I said, my voice ice cold. "I hope she gives you everything you wanted, because you've lost me." I walked past them, down the stairs, past Sasha standing frozen in the hallway. My hand was steady as I opened the front door. "You're making a mistake," my father called after me. "You'll regret this." I paused in the doorway, looking back at them one last time. My mother's tears, my father's anger, Sasha's guilty face. "No," I said quietly. "You're the ones who'll regret this. I promise you that." The door closed behind me with a final click. As I walked away from everything I'd ever known, something crystallized inside me. This wasn't just about a scholarship anymore. This was about justice, about showing them exactly what they'd thrown away. They thought they were writing the end of my story, but standing there in the growing darkness, I knew better. This wasn't an ending at all. This was just the beginning of their reckoning. Living out of a suitcase wasn't part of my life plan, but neither was family betrayal. My first apartment was a tiny room in a shared house with 3 other girls, the kind of place where the shower never quite got hot and the kitchen always smelled like someone's burnt dinner. Another rejection? My roommate Sarah glanced at my laptop screen as she passed by. I closed the email with a sharp click. They want 3 years of experience for an entry-level position. Make it make sense. My part-time job at a local coffee shop barely covered rent, let alone the dream of saving for school. Every morning, I'd serve lattes to students wearing Preston University hoodies, fighting the urge to tell them how close I'd come to being one of them. Then came the text that changed everything. Your account access has been terminated, my phone buzzed one morning. Please contact your guardian for further information. My hands shook as I dialed the bank. What do you mean terminated? The joint account has been closed by the primary holder, the representative explained. Your father. Of course. He'd finally made good on his threat. I had exactly $247 to my name. That night, I sent out 15 more job applications. One was to a small science communication startup I'd never heard of. The listing caught my eye. Seeking passionate science communicators, experience preferred but not required. Show us your potential. 2 days later, my phone rang. Is this Bella? A woman's crisp voice asked. I'm Viviana Hayes from SciComm Solutions. Your application was interesting. My heart raced. Thank you for... I didn't say it was good, she cut in. But there's something there. Can you come in tomorrow? The office was a converted warehouse space, all exposed brick and hanging plants. Viviana sat across from me, her dark eyes sharp behind trendy glasses. Your writing sample, she said, tapping a paper on her desk. It's rough, but you made complex genetics accessible without dumbing it down. That's rare. Thank you, Don't thank me yet. She leaned forward. Why aren't you in school? Your credentials suggest you should be. The question hit like a punch to the gut. Family complications? She studied me for a long moment. We can't offer much. Part-time work, entry-level pay, but if you're willing to learn, to work harder than you've ever worked. I am, I said quickly. Whatever it takes. A ghost of a smile crossed her face. We'll see. The next months were brutal. I'd work morning shifts at the coffee shop, then race to SciComm for afternoon projects. Viviana was a demanding mentor, sending back drafts covered in red ink. This isn't good enough, became her mantra. Do it again. But slowly, surely, I improved. My first published piece, a blog post about emerging cancer treatments, got picked up by several science news sites. Then came the Facebook message that nearly broke me. Hey sis, Sasha wrote, just wanted to share some exciting news. Got invited to speak at Preston's alumni weekend about my amazing experience here. Miss you. XOXO. I stared at her profile picture, her perfect smile, the Preston campus in the background, my hands clenched into fists. You okay? Viviana asked, catching my expression. Fine, I said automatically. She raised an eyebrow. Try again. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the weight of months of silence. But suddenly, the whole story poured out. The scholarship, the betrayal, everything. When I finished, Viviana was quiet for a long moment. Well, she finally said, that explains a lot. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have... Stop apologizing. She stood up. walking to her filing cabinet. "I have a project. It's bigger than anything you've handled, but if you can pull it off—" She handed me a file. "This could be your chance to show them exactly what they threw away." I opened the folder. Inside was information about a revolutionary new cancer treatment, still under wraps. The kind of story that could make a career. "Why me?" I asked. "Because you have something to prove." Viviana's eyes met mine. And in my experience, that makes for the best kind of writer. As I left the office that night, clutching the file to my chest, my phone buzzed again. Another Facebook notification. Sasha, beaming in her graduation gown, our parents proudly flanking her. But this time, instead of pain, I felt something different. Determination. They thought they'd written me off, relegated me to the shadows. They had no idea what was coming. I opened the file and started reading. This wasn't just an opportunity. It was the first step toward making them regret every choice they'd made. And I was ready to take it. The cancer treatment story changed everything. Within weeks of publication, my inbox was flooded with interview requests and follow-up questions. Viviana's gamble had paid off. Our tiny startup was suddenly on the map. "Your piece has over 50,000 shares, Viviana announced one morning, dropping a stack of papers on my desk. "Time to capitalize on that momentum." I was already neck-deep in my next project when someone tapped my shoulder. "Excuse me," a familiar voice said. "I'm looking for Bella." I spun around to find Lucian Rodriguez grinning at me. We'd grown up on the same street, but I hadn't seen him since everything fell apart. "Lucian!" I stood up, shocked. "What are you doing here?" Following a lead, he gestured to the press badge hanging from his neck. "Investigative journalist now. Your cancer treatment piece caught my attention." We grabbed coffee during my break. Lucian had grown into his lanky frame, traded his teenage awkwardness for quiet confidence. "So," he stirred his coffee, "want to tell me how you went from Preston University bound to science writing sensation?" I tensed. "That's a long story." "I've got time." His eyes were kind but shrewd. "Especially since your sister seems to be taking credit for some of your recent work." My cup froze halfway to my mouth. "What?" He pulled out his phone, showing me a social media post. There was Sasha speaking at some alumni event, clearly referencing my articles as if they were her own. "Fascinating talk by Sasha on breakthrough cancer treatments," the caption read. "The Bennett family continues to push scientific boundaries." My vision blurred with rage. They're using my work to prop up their lies?" I thought something seemed off. Lucian leaned forward. "Want to tell me the real story?" I hesitated. "It's complicated." "Everything worth writing about is." He placed a card on the table. "Think about it." Back at the office, Viviana noticed my distraction. "Spill it." I showed her the post. Her eyes narrowed dangerously. "This is plagiarism," she said flatly. "We could sue." "No," I said quickly. "I have a better idea." The next 6 months were a blur of deadlines and determination. I threw myself into bigger stories, more challenging projects. My byline became increasingly recognized in science communication circles. Then came the email that made it all worth it. "Congratulations," Viviana read aloud. "Your series on genetic engineering has been nominated for the Thompson Award for Excellence in Science Communication." The office erupted in cheers. I sat there, stunned. "There's more," Viviana continued, a rare smile playing on her lips. "The ceremony will be hosted by Preston University's Science Department." The irony was delicious. That evening, my phone lit up with a text from Lucian. "Heard about the nomination? Ready to tell me that story yet?" We met at a quiet bar. This time, I told him everything. He whistled low. "That's something else." Yeah, well, I traced patterns in the condensation on my glass. What doesn't kill you makes you write better stories, right? Speaking of stories, he pulled out his notebook. How would you feel about an exposé? Not just about the scholarship, but about academic dishonesty, family pressure, stolen achievements. I started to refuse, but then remembered Sasha's post, my parents' smug faces as they basked in borrowed glory. What did you have in mind? The article dropped 3 weeks later. While it didn't name names, anyone who knew the situation would recognize the truth. The fallout was immediate. My phone exploded with notifications as mutual acquaintances connected the dots. Sasha's social media went suspiciously quiet. Then came the voicemail from my mother. Bella, her voice wavered, we need to talk about this. This article. People are asking questions. Your father is furious. Please call us back. I deleted it without responding. You okay? Viviana asked when I told her about the voicemail. Never better. I handed her my latest draft. This one's going to be bigger than the cancer story. She scanned the first page, eyebrows rising. Bold move, taking on Big Pharma. I learned from the best. I smiled. Besides, what's the worst that could happen? Careful, she warned. The higher you climb, the harder they'll try to pull you down. But I wasn't worried. Let them try. Every attempt to diminish me had only made me stronger, more determined. That evening, I received another message, this one from an unknown number. The truth has a way of coming out. Be prepared. The awards ceremony might hold more surprises than anyone expects. I stared at the cryptic message, a slow smile spreading across my face. Whatever was coming, I was ready. After all, I'd learned from the best about keeping secrets and planning revenge. The pharmaceutical exposé hit like a tornado. Major news outlets picked it up, and suddenly I was doing TV interviews explaining complex medical fraud in soundbites designed for morning shows. You're a natural, the makeup artist said, powdering my face before my 5th interview that week. Like you were born for this. If only she knew how many times I'd practiced these exact scenarios in my bedroom mirror, imagining my family watching from their living room. My phone buzzed. Lucian again. Got a minute? Big news. I met him at our usual spot after the interview. He was practically vibrating with excitement. Remember those documents you sent me? About the Preston scholarship? He slid a folder across the table. I did some digging. Inside were emails, lots of them, between my parents and the scholarship committee. Your sister, Lucian said quietly, she didn't just take your interview slot, she failed the initial screening. They knew she wasn't qualified. My hands shook as I read. How did she get in then? Money talks. He tapped one particular email. Your father made a substantial donation, very substantial. I felt sick. So not only did they steal my opportunity, they bought her way in. There's more. He pulled out his phone, showing me a social media post from Preston University's alumni page. Look who's presenting at the Thompson Awards. My heart stopped. There was Sasha, beaming in a professional headshot. Proud to announce our distinguished alumna will be presenting at this year's ceremony. This can't be a coincidence, I muttered. It gets better. Lucian's eyes gleamed. Guess who's been claiming credit for your pharma story? He showed me another post. My parents at a charity gala, the caption praising their daughter's groundbreaking journalism in medical ethics. They're not even trying to hide it anymore, I said, anger building. They really think they can just... My phone rang. Viviana. Turn on channel 7, she said without preamble. Now. Lucian and I huddled over my phone's live stream. There was Sasha giving an interview about her upcoming presentation at the awards. Science communication has always been my passion, she was saying, wearing the same practiced smile I remembered from childhood. from my groundbreaking cancer treatment coverage to exposing pharmaceutical fraud. That's it, I stood up abruptly. I'm done playing nice. Back at the office, I pulled up every email, every draft, every piece of evidence proving my authorship. "What are you planning?" Viviana asked from my doorway. "Something risky." I looked up at her. "How would you feel about me giving an exclusive interview about my journey? The full story, no holds barred." She studied me for a long moment. "You sure about this? There's no going back." "They crossed that line, not me." I showed her Sasha's interview. Besides, the truth was always going to come out eventually. "Do it," she decided, "but do it right, make it count." I called Lucian. "Remember that story you wanted to write? I'm ready." We worked late into the night, crafting the perfect narrative, not just about the scholarship or the stolen credit, but about privilege, power, and the price of truth. "This will burn bridges," Lucian warned as we finished. "Good." I read over the final draft. Some bridges need to burn. The next morning, my inbox exploded. The first message was from my mother. "How dare you? After everything we've done for you, call me immediately." Delete. The second was from Sasha. "Bells, please. We need to talk about this. I can explain." Delete. The third made me pause. It was from Thaddeus Dean, a board member for the Thompson Awards. "Dear Bella, your recent work has caught our attention. Would you be interested in giving the keynote address at the awards ceremony? We feel your perspective on ethics in science communication would be particularly relevant." I showed the email to Viviana. "Well," she smiled wickedly, "isn't that interesting timing?" I typed my response. I would be honoured. That evening, another anonymous text arrived. "The stage is set. Hope you're ready for the spotlight." I was more than ready. I was done hiding in the shadows while they basked in stolen light. My phone rang again, my father this time. I answered on impulse. "You're making a terrible mistake," he growled. "We can still fix this if you retract." "No, Dad," my voice was steady. "You're the ones who made the mistake, and soon everyone will know it." I hung up before he could respond. Outside my window, the city lights twinkled like stars, each one a reminder of how far I'd come from that scared girl leaving home with just a suitcase. The award ceremony was 3 weeks away, just enough time to prepare the perfect acceptance speech. After all, if they wanted to make this a public affair, who was I to disappoint? Lucian's article dropped like a bomb 3 days before the awards ceremony. "The Price of Prestige, How One Family's Betrayal Sparked a Scientific Revolution," blazed across every major news site. My phone hadn't stopped ringing since. "You've got another call," my assistant poked her head into my office. "Preston University's Dean of Sciences." "Add it to the list," I said, not looking up from my laptop where I was polishing my keynote speech. Viviana burst in, waving her tablet. "Have you seen the latest? Your sister's withdrawn from presenting at the ceremony." "Shocking," I kept typing. "Almost like she can't take credit for my work anymore." "That's not all." Viviana sat down. "Your parents are still planning to attend. They're close friends with Thaddeus Dean, remember?" Of course they were. The same connections they'd always relied on. My phone buzzed. A text from Lucian. "You watching the morning news? Your story's trending." I switched on the office TV just in time to catch the tail end of a segment about academic fraud and nepotism at prestigious universities. They showed a photo of Sasha at her graduation, my parents beaming beside her. "Turn it up," Viviana said sharply. "Sources suggest the family pressured the younger daughter to remain silent about the scholarship fraud," the reporter was saying. "The question now is, how many other qualified candidates have been pushed aside for donors' children?" My email pinged, another message from Thaddeus Dean. "Dear Bella, In light of recent developments, we believe it's best to address these allegations head-on at the ceremony. Your keynote speech provides the perfect platform. We trust you'll handle this delicate situation with appropriate discretion. They're trying to control the narrative, Viviana scoffed, reading over my shoulder. Too late for that. I clicked send on my reply. I agree completely. The truth deserves its moment. The office door flew open again. This time it was Sarah, my old roommate who now handled our PR. You need to see this, she thrust her phone at me. Your sister's trying to do damage control. Sasha had posted a lengthy statement. While I regret any misunderstandings about my role in recent scientific publications, my time at Preston University was earned through hard work and dedication. Misunderstandings? I laughed bitterly. That's what we're calling theft now. My phone rang. Lucian again. They're scrambling, he said without preamble. Your father's been calling every contact he has in journalism, trying to kill the story. Let him try. I saved the latest draft of my speech. How's the follow-up piece coming? Ready to go live the morning of the ceremony. You sure about this? It's going to be nuclear. They wanted a show, I said. They're going to get one. That evening, I received an unexpected visitor. Thaddeus Dean himself, looking considerably less polished than his usual social media appearances. Bella, he smiled tightly, may we speak privately? In my office, he got straight to the point. Your parents are dear friends. Surely we can find a way to handle this internally. Like how you handled my scholarship internally. I met his gaze steadily. Or how about how you handled Sasha's fraudulent acceptance? He paled slightly. Those are serious allegations. With serious evidence. I opened my drawer, pulling out Lucian's folder. Would you like to see the emails? What do you want? He asked finally. Nothing. I smiled. I just want to give my speech. Isn't that what you invited me for? After he left, Viviana called. Security just sent over the seating chart for the ceremony, she said. Guess who's at the front table? Let me guess. The Bennett family in all their glory? Oh, along with every major player in science communication. She paused. You ready for this? I looked at my speech, then at the framed copy of Lucian's article on my wall. They taught me everything I know about putting on a show, I said. Time to give them a performance they'll never forget. That night, one final anonymous text arrived. Tomorrow changes everything. Hope your speech is ready. You'll only get one shot at this. I read through my speech one last time, each word carefully chosen, each revelation strategically placed. 6 years of pain, determination and receipts, all distilled into 15 minutes that would shatter their carefully constructed facade. My phone lit up with a text from Sasha. Please, Bella, don't do this. We can talk about it. Find another way. I typed back 4 words. See you tomorrow, sis. Then I turned off my phone, laid out my dress for the ceremony and went to bed, sleeping better than I had in years. Tomorrow, they'd learn what happens when you underestimate the quiet one. Tomorrow, they'd finally understand exactly what they'd created when they threw me away. The Preston University ballroom glittered like a scene from someone else's life. Crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows across marble floors, and the air hummed with prestigious chatter. Deep breaths, Viviana whispered, adjusting my emerald green dress. You've earned this moment. I spotted them immediately, my parents at their assigned table, looking immaculate as always. Sasha sat beside them, fidgeting with her napkin. They hadn't seen me yet. Ms. Bennett, a young event coordinator approached. We need you backstage for final preparations in 10 minutes. Bella! I turned to find Thaddeus Dean making his way toward me, practically dragging someone along. My stomach dropped when I recognized Lucian. Wonderful surprise, Thaddeus said too brightly. Mr. Rodriguez here will be presenting your award tonight. Last-minute change to the program. Lucian's eyes met mine, and I knew instantly this wasn't a coincidence. Excuse us, I said, pulling Lucian aside. Did you know about this? Found out an hour ago. He straightened his bow tie. Apparently, they thought having a neutral party present would help control the narrative. I couldn't help but laugh. They chose you as the neutral party? They don't know about the follow-up piece going live at midnight. His smile was razor-sharp. Ready to make history? Before I could respond, I heard my mother's voice. Bella? Oh, sweetheart. She stood there in designer silk, arms half raised for a hug I had no intention of giving. Don't, I said quietly. Just don't. Please, she glanced around nervously. Can we talk somewhere private? Your father and I are very concerned about their reputation, I finished. Bit late for damage control, Mom. Sasha appeared behind her. Bells, you look amazing. Save it. I turned away, but she grabbed my arm. Wait, please. I know I messed up. I know we all did. But does it have to end like this? In public? I looked at her perfectly manicured hand on my arm, then at her face. Genuine distress there. But was it for me or for herself? You had 6 years to make this right, I said. 6 years of taking credit for my work, of playing along with their lies. Tonight isn't about ending, Sasha. It's about truth. 5 minutes, Ms. Bennett, the coordinator called. My father appeared, jaw tight. Whatever you're planning, think carefully. Some bridges can't be rebuilt. Good thing I brought matches then. Viviana appeared at my elbow. Time to go, Bella. They're ready for you backstage. In the wings, I could hear Thaddeus giving his opening remarks. My phone buzzed. A message from Lucian. Articles queued up. Point of no return. You sure about this? I typed back. Watch me. Now, Thaddeus's voice boomed through the speakers. To present our highest honor, please welcome investigative journalist Lucian Rodriguez. I watched from behind the curtain as Lucian took the stage, adjusting the microphone. Thank you, he began. Tonight's recipient is someone who reminds us that true success isn't about who you know or what family you come from. It's about integrity, determination, and the courage to stand up for truth, no matter the cost. My parents shifted uncomfortably in their seats. I've known this person since childhood, Lucian continued, and watched as they transformed personal betrayal into professional triumph. Their work has exposed corruption, challenged established powers, and given voice to those silenced by privilege and position. Sasha's face had gone pale, but perhaps most importantly, Lucian's eyes found mine in the wings. They've shown us that sometimes the greatest stories aren't about scientific discoveries at all. Sometimes they're about the price we pay for truth and the courage it takes to tell it. My heart thundered as he paused. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Bella. The spotlight hit me as I emerged, temporarily blinding me to the audience, but I knew exactly where they were sitting, could feel their eyes on me as I crossed to the podium. Lucian handed me the crystal award, squeezing my hand briefly. Show them what you're made of, he whispered. I looked out at the sea of faces, at my family in the front row, my mother's tears, my father's clenched jaw, Sasha's pleading eyes. Thank you, I said into the microphone, my voice steady. You know, it's funny. I've spent years writing about breakthrough discoveries and scientific revelations. But tonight, I want to talk about a different kind of discovery. I pulled out my speech, the pages crisp under my fingers. I want to talk about what happens when privilege meets merit, when family loyalty meets personal integrity, and when the truth refuses to stay buried. In the audience, my father started to stand, but my mother pulled him back down. The point of no return had arrived, and I was ready to burn it all down. 6 years ago, I stood outside a closed door and listened as my future was given away, I began, my voice carrying across the silent ballroom, not because I wasn't qualified, not because I hadn't earned it, but because I didn't fit someone else's image of success. The spotlight felt warm on my face as I continued. That door belonged to my father's study, and behind it, my parents were giving my hard-earned scholarship interview slot to my sister, not because she wanted it, not because she'd earned it, but because she knew how to work a room. Gasps rippled through the audience. My father's face had turned an alarming shade of red. But this isn't just my story. It's a story about how privilege perpetuates itself, how money buys opportunities, and how truth becomes negotiable when reputation is at stake. I pulled up the first slide, emails between my father and Preston University's admission board. These documents show how a substantial donation secured my sister's admission, despite her failing to meet basic qualification requirements. My voice remained steady. The same position I had earned through merit alone. Thaddeus Dean was frantically whispering to someone on his phone. Too late. Since then, I've watched as my work, my cancer treatment coverage, my pharmaceutical exposés were claimed by the very people who once deemed me unworthy of representing them. The next slide showed Sasha's social media posts taking credit for my articles. She slumped in her chair, face in her hands. But here's what fascinated me most as a science communicator, I continued. The pattern of behaviour, the predictable way privilege protects itself, first through silence, then through money, and finally through outright theft of others' achievements. My mother stood up, tears streaming down her face. "Bella, please." "No, Mom, you had your turn to speak. For 6 years you've spoken over me, about me, for me. Tonight is my turn." Lucian stepped forward, adding his own voice. "As the journalist who investigated this story, I can confirm every document, every email, every piece of evidence presented here tonight." The audience had gone from shocked silence to angry murmurs. Several Preston University board members were huddled together looking stricken. "But this isn't about revenge," I said, though the taste of victory was sweet on my tongue. "This is about accountability, about acknowledging that success built on lies will always crumble, about showing that merit matters more than money." My father finally exploded, standing up so forcefully his chair toppled backward. "You ungrateful—" "Security!" Thaddeus called weakly, but Lucian was faster. "Sir, I wouldn't," he said quietly. "The live stream is still running." Indeed, the red recording lights blinked steadily on the cameras around the room. "To the aspiring scientists and communicators out there," I continued, ignoring my father's rage, "know that your work matters. Your truth matters. Don't let anyone steal your voice or your story." I turned to face my family directly. "And to those who thought they could bury the truth under donations and social connections, you taught me my most valuable lesson. You showed me exactly what I didn't want to become." The room erupted in applause. In the chaos, I saw Sasha slip out a side door, my mother following close behind. My father stood alone, his carefully constructed world crumbling around him. Viviana appeared at my side, tears in her eyes. "That's my girl." Lucian stepped up to the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, I believe we've just witnessed something extraordinary. Not just an acceptance speech, but a moment of genuine truth-telling that will reshape conversations about merit, privilege, and accountability in academia." More applause. Phones were out everywhere, recording, sharing, spreading the truth like wildfire. Thaddeus Dean approached the podium, his professional mask cracking. "Perhaps we should take a brief recess." "No need," I said clearly into the microphone. "I've said what I came to say. Thank you for this award. I hope I've lived up to its promise of excellence in communication." As I stepped down from the stage, people pressed forward, journalists, academics, students. But through the crowd, I caught one last glimpse of my father, standing alone at his table. Our eyes met. For the first time in my life, I saw fear in his gaze. Not of me, but of what I'd become. Someone he couldn't control, couldn't silence, couldn't buy off. "Miss Bennett," a young reporter called out, "what happens next?" I smiled, clutching my award. Next? Well, I believe my colleague Mr. Rodriguez has a fascinating follow-up piece dropping at midnight. And after that... I looked around the room at all the faces hungry for truth. I think we're just getting started. The truth had finally broken free, and like all good scientific discoveries, it would change everything, just like I'd promised them it would. The morning after the ceremony, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Lucian's follow-up piece had exploded online, exposing similar cases of academic fraud across multiple prestigious universities. "Hug, your inbox is overflowing," Sarah announced, poking her head into my office. "3 major universities want you to lead investigations into their admissions practices, and Preston's board is in complete chaos." I was about to respond when Viviana burst in, brandishing her tablet. "They're resigning. Your father and Thaddeus Dean, both stepping down from Preston's Board of Trustees." My hands shook slightly as I read the news, not from fear, but from a strange sense of completion. "Bella," my assistant's voice crackled through the intercom, "your sister's here." I looked up to find Sasha standing in my doorway, looking smaller somehow without her usual polish. "Can we talk?" she asked quietly. "Really talk?" Viviana caught my eye. "We'll give you some space." Once alone, Sasha sat down heavily. "I lost my job this morning. The research institute said they couldn't keep someone who'd falsified credentials." "Funny how consequences work," I said, not unkindly. "I deserve that." She twisted her hands together. "I deserve all of it. But I need you to know I never wanted any of this. Not really." "Then why did you take it?" "Because it was easier than disappointing them." Her voice cracked. "You were always the brave one, Bella. You fought for what you wanted. I just took what they gave me." "And my work? My articles?" "Dad insisted, said it would help the family narrative. I knew it was wrong, but..." She met my eyes. I was a coward. The silence stretched between us, heavy with years of unspoken truths. "I can't fix what I did," she continued, "but I can start being honest. I've already contacted Preston and the other institutions, admitting to everything." My phone buzzed, Lucian calling. "Excuse me, I need to take this." "Turn on the news," he said without preamble. "Your father's giving a press conference." I switched on the office TV. There he stood, looking aged and defeated. "My daughter Bella," he was saying, "showed tremendous courage in exposing these systematic abuses. While I deeply regret my role in perpetuating these practices, I am proud of her integrity." Sasha and I watched in stunned silence. "Did he just say he's proud of me?" I whispered. "First time for everything," she managed. The door opened again, my mother this time, clutching a familiar-looking envelope. "I found this," she said, holding it out, "in your old room, your original application essay for Preston." I took it, remembering the hours spent crafting each word. "I read it last night," she continued, "really read it for the first time. You would have been brilliant there, Bella. We were so wrong." "Mum, no, let me finish." She straightened her shoulders. "We can't undo what we did, but we can learn from it, starting with this." She pulled out a check. "Your college fund, the one we withheld. It's yours, no strings attached. Use it however you want. Further education, your company, anything." I looked at the check, then back at her. "Keep it." "What? I don't want your money." I stood up. What I wanted, what I always wanted, was for you to believe in me, to fight for me the way you fought for Sasha." "I know that now," she whispered. My phone buzzed again, this time with a message from Viviana. "Major publisher wants your story. Book deal. You in?" I looked at my family, broken, humbled, but maybe finally honest. "I have to get back to work," I said, "but maybe we can get coffee sometime. Talk properly." "We'd like that," Sasha said quietly. "Whenever you're ready." After they left, Lucian appeared. "You okay?" he asked. "Better than okay." I showed him the publisher's message. "Ready to tell another story?" "Always," he grinned. "What's this one about?" I looked around my office, at the award glinting in the sunlight, at the framed articles on the wall, at the future stretching out before me, finally unbound by lies. "It's about finding your voice," I said, "about choosing truth over comfort, about building something real from the ashes of what was fake." "Sounds like a bestseller." He sat down. "Where do we start?" I smiled, opening my laptop. "At the beginning, with a closed door and a girl who refused to stay silent." The truth had cost me a family, but it had given me something better. A voice that couldn't be silenced, a success that couldn't be stolen, and a future that was entirely my own. And that was worth everything.